Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a question that I bet many of you have thought about, especially if you're playing fantasy football. Can a quarterback's best college season, specifically their peak PFF passer rating, actually tell us something about their NFL success? We're digging into an article from that Does It Matter series on advanced analytics to see what they found.
Yeah, it's a great question to dig into because, we're swimming in stats these days, but which ones actually mean something? This isn't just about the numbers themselves. It's about figuring out what really helps you evaluate these prospects coming into the league. And just to be clear up front, PFF Passer Rating, that's Pro Football Focus's own metric, right? It tries to boil down a QB's graded performance, decision-making, the whole package into one number.
Right. Captures more than just standard stats. Okay, so how did the analysts actually go about testing this specific PFF rating? What was their approach?
They were pretty smart about it, actually. They focused on quarterbacks who finished in the top 30 for fantasy since 2017. That year is important because it's when these PFF ratings really became, widely available.
Okay, 2017 onwards. Makes sense.
And, crucially, they tossed out the rookie years.
Interesting. Why skip the rookie season?
Well, a player's first year, it can be, let's say, noisy. It's often not representative of their true potential, so it could skew the results. They wanted a cleaner signal. And instead of like an average college rating over several years, they zeroed in on the quarterback's single best college season based on that PFF passer rating.
Their peak performance.
Exactly. The idea was to capture their ceiling, What did they look like at their absolute best in college?
Okay, got it. So refined group, post-rookie year, looking at the peak college performance. What did the initial look at the data show?
So they first put together a couple of visuals, an averages chart and a differences chart. The averages chart kind of gave a general feel, showing typical PFF ratings for the top fantasy guys versus the bottom ones.
Just the raw trends.
Right. But the differences chart, that was more revealing. It directly compared the top and bottom groups, highlighting the gap. And what popped out was pretty consistent.
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At brainyballers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting ability so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers' Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
In 5 of the 7 seasons they looked at, the QBs finishing in the top 5 for fantasy points. They had peak college PFF ratings that were either the same as or actually better than the guys finishing way down in the bottom 10.
So a signal was definitely there, but they didn't just leave it at better, right? They tried to find a specific number, a threshold.
They did, yeah. Initially, a rating around 81 looked kind of promising, but after they did some more statistical tweaking and testing, they landed on a more solid threshold, 83, a peak college PFF passer rating of 83 or higher.
83. Okay, what was special about 83?
Getting that 83 mark, it correlated with a 29.6% higher rate of finishing in the top 10 for fantasy scoring compared to falling below that mark. Almost a 30% better shot at being a top-tier fantasy starter if you hit that 83-plus level in college. That's pretty significant.
Wow, yeah, 29.6% is a number you can definitely work with when you're thinking about draft strategy or trades. But, okay, they also looked at the overall statistical strength of this link, right? Using something called a Pearson value.
Yep, the Pearson correlation coefficient. It basically measures how strongly two things move together. You usually want to see something like 0.1 or higher, especially in like sports science, to say there's a meaningful connection. And for peak college PFF passer rating versus NFL fantasy success, they got a value of 0.107.
0.107. Now, the article apparently called this significant, but also underwhelming. How can it be both?
Right, that's the key nuance here for you listening. It's significant because it was above their minimum threshold, which I think was 0.1. So statistically speaking, there is a real positive relationship. It's not just random chance, but underwhelming. Just for context, think about QB draft capital, like how high a quarterback gets picked. That's generally seen as important. Well, that had a Pearson value of negative 0.219. Much stronger statistical link there. So 0.219 is numerically a stronger correlation than 0.107.
Ah, okay. So that it has some predictive signal, but maybe not as strong as simply knowing if a guy was a first-round pick versus, say, a fifth-rounder.
Exactly. It puts it in perspective. The 83 plus PFF rating is a useful piece of information, but it's not the be-all and end-all.
So wrapping this up then, what's the big takeaway for someone trying to use this info?
Well, we saw that hitting 83 or above on that peak college PFF passer rating, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It bumps up the odds of NFL fantasy success. Noticeably, that 29.6% difference is real. But yeah, that Pearson value, while significant, isn't earth-shattering compared to something like draft capital. The source itself flagged it as maybe less powerful than you'd hope. So it really leads you to ask, how much weight do I give this one metric when I'm looking at a prospect?
Right. It seems this deep dive shows the 83 plus threshold is a helpful signal. It adds value, especially for guys hitting it, but it's definitely not a magic bullet predictor on its own. And falling short, scoring an 81 or 82 doesn't automatically mean a guy's going to be a bust.
Precisely. It's one tool in the toolbox, one data point in a frankly, very complex evaluation puzzle.
Absolutely. Hopefully this dive gave you some useful insights to think about. Consider how this kind of analysis fits into your own process. What other factors, maybe draft capital, maybe athleticism scores, maybe something else entirely, do you combine with it to get the full picture?